Hello, everybody. Willie and Renee are back once again. I know you haven't seen us in a very long time because my last video or our last video, I talked about being diagnosed with throat cancer and all of that. And we went through the radiation. Praise God. Everything is great and good. And I'm sure later on we'll be talking more about that experience and all that we went through with that. But thank God I have my voice back. Can't talk long, but I can still talk. And so today we're going to talk about some stuff. Okay. What are we going to talk about today, babe?
Well, actually, as we're starting a new year, we're like to talk more and more about the today's topic about what's happening in America today.
Mhm.
How we overall look at the what is happening in the different countries that the U.S. is associated with, and especially like Venezuela and
Mhm.
perhaps even Denmark.
Mhm.
It's a time for current events and to just have a conversation of getting to understand what others think. So,
Mhm.
Renee, I would like to ask you, what are your thoughts on starting out
What's
this new
going on?
year with what is going on and what the mentality, the thought process
Right,
that individuals are going through right now they're talking about?
right. Well, Willie J, and everybody. Okay. Let me say, first of all, these are just my opinions. No professional, no nothing, none of that. Okay. And I am not a Democrat or Republican. I'm an independent. Okay. So when I talk, it's going to be from that point of view. But something that really disturbed me this week, and actually almost made me want to cry. It was really sad. Was our president, because he is our president, Trump, accepting that Nobel Peace Prize from the young lady, from the lady in Venezuela. Why that was so sad to me is because um, somebody who needs approval that much and is willing to take somebody else's almost their scraps. He didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, and he's willing just to have that, um, that level of approval. And I should have gotten it. And I'm willing to just take it from somebody else who the committee, said, that, this person was worthy, you know, and it made me think about a lot that is going on in the world. And with our president, like I said, this is just my personal opinions or whatever. And you stop me because, I'll get going. So you stop me, okay? But even from a child, I used to study Trump, uh, his childhood all the way up. He was always very interesting to me. And he was always wanting approval and acceptance and, and be appreciated and not realizing that this was a hole that the world couldn't fill. His family was going to have to fill that hole for him. But we are the ones that are suffering, or going through this with him for his need of approval and acceptance and, and feeling like he's somebody and all of those things. He competes and, and because in his life, he was so much negativity, in his life until when somebody says something negative to him now, he's not going to have it. He's going to rebel because he probably couldn't, like he wanted to as a kid, So now he wants revenge for this and, and I'm going to get them back and I'm going to get retribution and all of those different things. And, his first term in office, um, a lot of the things that he was trying to accomplish or that he did accomplish, I felt sort of positive about some of them. His messaging, his crazy making, no, but some of the policies, and I feel like he was people don't like to hear this, but this is just my opinion from listening to the news and, everything that was going on. A lot of his good success came off of the heels of Barack Obama. President Obama or ex-President Obama set him up for success. And so he was able to succeed. Also, he put in place, or whoever the government put in place, people who were mature in whatever whatever position they had. And they were, you know, above his pay grade, or, at his level of pay grade. When I say that, that means that, he had commanders and people who were seasoned in what they did. And I think he realized that he couldn't have as much control, you know, because they were always saying, no, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And he had heard that all of his life, what he shouldn't do, how he should, all of those things. Maybe later I'll go into
Mhm.
depth because I know a lot about Donald Trump. And but this time, you know, they got people, almost everybody in his cabinet is at least 20, maybe 30 years younger than him with no experience. And before, I used to holler Stephen Miller before, because it was amazing to me that you had this young man who was just barely 30. He was in his 20s, basically, when he started working with Trump. And Trump was listening to him, but he still had enough balance. But now, Stephen Miller is, I call him, the chief executive in charge of everything, and his own ideas and his own way of thinking. And Trump is such a pleaser and a follower. And then on the other side, he wants his way and he wants to do, he's trying to assert his power and all of that. So you've got all of this crazy making going on. But all of the people that he surrounded himself with are all younger people with less experience, so that he can, be the chief. And so, what makes me more upset about Trump, because actually, as I watched Trump, as I said throughout, what I read and watched and all of those things, he's not necessarily a bad person. You know,
Mhm.
he's not. He's sort of he's a little passive aggressive, but a little passive, but he's a pleaser. But yeah, go. Let me just finish this one thing. Don't
Mhm.
forget, he's a pleaser in a lot of ways, but he wants the power and all. He wants people to appreciate, to love him, to follow him. So he's got people now who will do that. But what makes me so sad is he also has people that don't care about him at all, because they just let him, just do whatever. Now he is stubborn, but they just are getting whatever they can. And to me, that's Democrats and Republicans. And, the other day we were watching the news, and, they were playing that song that he likes, YMCA or whatever that song is, whatever. And the people wanted him to do that milking the cow dance, and he did it for them. I felt so bad for him for that, because they were just playing him. They were just using him as almost a joke, and they're laughing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's just, okay, this is what they want. This will make them happy. I'm sorry, but that's, I just wanted to say that. Go on. You were going to say
Well,
something.
I agree with that. I think that President Trump is a person that now is has people around him that are just understanding that they can take advantage of
Yes.
it. And that to me is one of those things that people who are, I won't say evil, but there's people
Mm-hmm.
that do take advantage of other people
Mm-hmm.
for their own personal gain is
Mm-hmm.
something that we we kind of see it from time to time, but we hope that
Mm-hmm.
it's not what we think.
Right.
But then the reality comes that it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like Ms. Machado, when she decided to give the Nobel Prize
Mm-hmm.
to President Trump,
Mm-hmm.
I was had the idea that surely she's not going to do that.
Right.
After
Right.
the committee had said that she shouldn't or can't do it,
Mm-hmm.
but she take it upon herself to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and that is to him. He just took it as a gift, I believe, but she took it as her way of manipulating him,
Yes. Yes.
and because she want to be
Mm-hmm.
the leader of Venezuela and want
Mm-hmm.
his
Mm-hmm.
support,
Mm-hmm.
that she's willing to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether she gave him the money that came along with it,
Mm-hmm.
as she probably did, or certainly was probably willing to,
Mm-hmm.
because however bad Maduro was as president of Venezuela,
Mm-hmm.
I think that she could, in a way, probably pretend like she's going to be
Mm-hmm.
nicer.
Right.
But I can pretty much guarantee that she, if she gave money, she will try to come up with ways to get her money back,
Mm-hmm.
because she's not going to go into office
Mm-hmm.
losing roughly $1 million, $2 million, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
money she get for the Nobel Peace Prize. And with her not being a wealthy lady beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
she's not going to just let that money go. And especially being the president, if everybody else was milking Venezuela
Mm-hmm.
for drugs or oil or
Mm-hmm.
what have you, I believe she would do it with the idea that I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just getting my money back.
Right. Right.
And she want that position as the leader of Venezuela,
Mm-hmm.
and she's hoping that President Trump will
Right.
go along with it.
Right.
And because he has Stephen Miller and
Mm-hmm.
Marco Rubio backing it,
Mm-hmm.
he's believing that he can do it, and she's believing that he
Mm-hmm.
can do it and will do it,
And
provided that she
mhm.
give him the prize.
I
And
know. And that's just so sad because just like we're sitting here knowing that it was a manipulation tool, for both of them to get whatever it was they wanted, the whole world, is looking at him like, and I've heard people say he's such a toddler, he's a baby, he's this, that, and the other. But as we know, from studying in school, that whenever people are emotionally downtrodden, I'll say abused, whatever. I don't know if that's a good term to use, but they stop emotionally growing there, you know. And he is, he's like a 8 or 10 year old. What I want, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. But then needing that approval and acceptance, and all of those things. And like I say, he is who he is, and he's older, so I don't know if he has dementia or whatever, but we know when you get older, you do have mental decline, at that age. But, uh, he's still alert, smart, all of those things. But he's just playing himself for a fool, and everybody else is too. So they're looking and saying, this man sold his soul for a used per se, Nobel Prize, because it's hers, and he feels like he deserves it, and all of those different things. Now I could go into talking about, him losing 2020. He still goes on and on and on about that, and he's trying to get retribution for all of that. And I don't know, this may not be the time, or you may not want me to, because I feel like with the 2020 election, the reason he keeps holding on to that he didn't lose is, my opinion, people, my opinion, don't know nothing, okay? Don't quote me, okay? Is that uh, whatever they did, whatever they put in place, he felt sure he was going to win. He should have won. That's my opinion. Okay, is whatever they were going to cheat or whatever they were going to do, or do the ballots or whatever. He felt like, well, what happened? And then Pence and the powers that be, switched out, whatever, or they caught on to the game, whatever it was. I also feel like that he did not win straight out this election either. Okay, yes, that's my opinion. Okay, but he got retribution for that 2020. Whatever they did, it worked out. I just couldn't believe that Kamala Harris, she may not have won, but she did not lose all of those states, all of this, nothing, nothing, nothing. No, I just don't. And what is interesting to me is the Democrats right now, or then, didn't do any kind of backlash with it, no kind of feedback, no kind of questioning. Like when he lost, he went around to the states and, and sued and pursued and said why, what, whatever. Democrats didn't do any of that, and they still just like, okay, we're waiting for this, and this to happen. And this year, and I'm not sure what's going to happen this year. I feel like, Trump is on a power hungry road. He's like, and everybody is lined up behind him, and they're okay, you can do this, you can do that. And yeah, they're giving him carte blanche to do whatever it is he wants to do, however he wants to do. So, people, we may not have an election, whatever. And he keeps trying to start wars with people so he can stay in office or whatever. And nobody won't play with him like he wants. Let's start a war, and nobody won't start one with him. He's just doing everything, and we won't even get into the Epstein files. I will say this, okay, is that, um, Epstein, at some point, they were friends. But if you look back into Trump's history, his great granddad, had, prostitute houses, whatever you want to call it, all that kind of stuff. His great granddad left his country also to not be in the military, and found out that the gold rush people could needed, entertainment at night, the men who were doing that. So he provided the entertainment. So that may sort of be, in his line. How do I say that delicately? With all of that kind of crazy. We know it's something that he is willing to turn the world upside down, in order to preserve whatever they're trying to hide. But I do that's where I feel today, is I just feel so sorry for him, because he is loyal, but people around him aren't. He has a loyal spirit. If you do this, then I'm gonna take care of you all or whatever. And he's taking care of the billionaires. He's told them he was going to, and he's doing it. But the billionaires are not taking care of him. They're not, And I say, I'm gonna leave it like this. This is sort of a joke, but it's sort of the truth. How we said that Obama was our first Black president, all of that, right? And stereotypes, not Black people are not like this, or not all Black people are like this. But I was like, well, Trump has more than stereotypes of Black people, of a Black president. He got 3 wives, 3 baby mamas, okay? He done been bankrupt, and all kinds of action. He lives off the government just like we do. He gets all them government contracts, get them and filter them through. I was like, he living off the government worse than we are. They say that, that all these Black people live off the government, whatever. That's just a little joke. But aside from that, is the people that are around him are not wishing him well and not doing well. And some of the ideas that he may have even now, it may be okay. But the filter that it's coming through and all the craziness that's happening around it, we can't even, at least I can't even see any of the good, not even as well as he did before, because those powers that be now, it seems like they're just out for themselves. And to me, that's the Democrats and the Republicans on that side, And yeah, in the middle of the word politics is Li, lie. That's it. Okay. Yes, but that's my thoughts for today. That's what struck me in the news this week, was just how sad, Oh, another thing about Greenland or whatever, how they're pushing that narrative of it's for our safety, you know, and somebody help put in the comments, send us some kind of notes about it, because for me, I'm like, how is Greenland going to help you to be safe? Um, they're the size of a small state that we have here. They don't have any military. He laughs and says they got them 2 dog sleds. Well, is that going to help us if something breaks out, them 2 dog sleds? I don't know. If Russia and China come together and they get it, Russia and China's military together is stronger and greater and bigger than ours, right? So them Greenland, I feel like for him it's just more of a power struggle to get it before China and Russia does, whatever. But just on its own, just saying that, not with all the intricate parts of it, just on its own, getting Greenland just for safety's sake, you know, is just like, getting a desert island, so nobody else can come around you. Like what? I don't know.
I
And them
think,
two dog friends, that
yeah,
don't make sense. Yeah, go
I
on.
think that's one of the things that we as a country can look at and know that that's not the case.
Right.
We're not looking at Greenland as it's going to be our savior or the U.S. really
Mm-hmm.
needs Greenland because technically we are a part of NATO.
Right.
If Russia or China ever attempted to invade Greenland, the problem would be that since it's a NATO country, all of NATO, including the U.S.,
Right.
would be come to their defense.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, Donald Trump is trying to say the U.S. let's go it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Shutting
it would
everybody out.
be more beneficial for all the NATO countries to fight Russia and China compared to just the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
fighting Russia or China.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole world basically turning against us.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a tariff right now, they're turning against us,
Right. Right.
or if they actually will turn against us when it comes to,
Mm-hmm.
well, we're not going to come to your defense because you didn't come to ours.
Right. Yeah. The interesting thing is just like with Venezuela, he kept saying it was the drugs, it was the drugs. And I often say, even though Trump is known as, stretching the truth a lot or, whatever y'all want to call that, fakeness, whatever. But in it, a lot of times he tells the truth. You just got to listen. And, even though he was talking about the drugs, he was also saying about their goal, which is really what it was about. And and he showed his hand with that whenever he let that the pardon for the man who was one of the greatest drug pins or whatever, drug dealers, whatever he was, type thing, right? He showed his hand that I don't really care about the drugs, I want that gold and all the minerals or whatever. Yes, thank you. It's the oil, thanks. And so sooner or later he's gonna get around and quit talking about Greenland is for the safety and what it's really about. We just have to listen. But that's where my mind was this week, is watching the news and watching how they interact. And the Nobel Prize just sunk me, for him and the people around him. And then him doing that dance while he's talking as the president. They're playing that music and wanting him to do that. It was a height of disrespect, and I don't think people, even people that vote for him or love him, you know, they don't seem to have the respect of the office of presidency, and that's sort of sad because that's what he wants more than anything in life. And he doesn't get it. And it's a hole that the whole world cannot fill for him. That's all I have to say for today.
All right. Well, we ask that you leave us your comments and let us know what your thoughts on the president being manipulated and America trying to go it alone. Can
Mm-hmm.
we or should we?
Mm-hmm.
Please leave your comments and thoughts on this. And we ask that you subscribe and share our podcast today. And
Mm-hmm.
thank you for tuning in. We'll talk with you next time.